Hello, welcome. We're off to a little bit of a late start by a few minutes, but thank everyone who is here watching live for your patience. You're in for a fantastic conversation about art with two incredible artists who are exhibiting in the current exhibition at the Silk Purse Art Center. It is entitled Testimony. We have both of them here tonight, Faria Firoz and Harem Tahir. My name is Stephen Snipe. I'm the Gallery and Communications Coordinator for the West Vancouver Community Arts Council, and we are thrilled to be able to present these two incredible artists in this really impactful and beautiful and thought-provoking exhibition. If you have any questions or comments for our artists tonight, you can drop those in the chat, and we will get to that a little bit later in the conversation. I am coming to you live from the Silk Purse. You can see some of the fantastic artwork on display behind me. And of course, here in West Vancouver, we are on the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, the Squamish Nation, the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and the Musqueam Nation. And we are incredibly grateful to our host nations for their stewardship of these lands since time memorial, and honored to engage with and celebrate in the arts alongside and with them. So, Testimony is a stunning exhibition dealing with themes of displacement, isolation, perseverance, and ultimately finding one's voice through these really detailed and expressive and emotive works of art. So let's meet our fantastic artists. Let's start with Faria. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you, Stephen, for the wonderful introduction. Thank you for this presentation and the opportunity to present our works in this space, in this beautiful space. I am tuning in from the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Very grateful to be in this land. My name is Faria Firoz. I'm an interdisciplinary artist who was born and raised in Bangladesh. I moved to Canada in 2016 and have been living in Chilliwack since, with like an occasional hybrid living in Vancouver, which is great. I'm currently pursuing my Master's of Fine Arts at Emily Carr University. I hold a BFA from University of Fraser Valley, down in Abbotsford. In terms of my art practice like looks at social, cultural, and political issues. With my art, I usually tend to talk about things I'm passionate about. I feel like art is a beautiful way of presenting like some harsh and like hard kind of facts and truths that's in sentence making might be hard to grasp, but in picture and visual form, they are more easier to present, no matter how hard the theme might be. Each picture that I want to present, I want them to be visually striking and provoking, and it gives the viewer and me a chance to like look at the outer world, like the world that's around us and the things that we're missing, because hopefully we are privileged enough to not have those issues going on, but other people are not as fortunate as us, so they might have to face it. So it's like me putting those out there for everyone to be in the same space, to everyone to be empathetic, sympathetic towards one another, to be mindful of the world around us and the reality it holds. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's very eloquent, Faria. I really appreciate that. Harem, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Stephen, Faria, and thanks for the Silk Purse Gallery to have give us this wonderful chance to show our work. My name is Harem Tahir. I'm an art instructor, and if I go back, I was an art teacher and an art instructor, also a teacher in the Institute of Educational Development. I graduated from College of Fine Art and having master teacher program in the educational development, and came to Canada beginning of 2018, I think end of 2017, and starting new life here in Canada, which was facing lots of struggles. If I start with learning English from basic in Canada, and in terms of practicing art, I'm a visual artist, and I do canvas painting, sometimes mural, and drawing. The story of my work, goes back to my childhood. It is a story of the disaster and the misery that is happening and happened around the world, and I'm guessing that still is happening. So that's why it is because I also experienced that challenges and have had lots of struggle in my life. So kind of like I combining all of them together. So myself, I grew up in a refugee camp, so that's why if you take a look of my art, the main character is children, and still they are, and I don't know. Sometimes I'm thinking that why. Maybe because this is the way that I'm healing myself or treating myself, and because I lost my childhood, and that was also the reason that pushed me to do more projects and supporting children, especially refugee children, with my art, like action in my paintings, raising funds for children, having solo shows, art project about them. But it is, if I go out of this, it is my art is kind of like, it's not only about myself or story of myself. It is about anyone who faces, and doesn't matter if where they are from, which color do they have, what they are, what they do believe. So I have a message, and I want to share with all peoples, and still I'm working on it. Even I think I did a lot, but still I think I need to do more. And that's why your guy was another chance for me to show my art and send or publish this message to the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Harem. That was very, very well put. Thank you, both of you, for sharing a little bit about yourselves and where you come from as artists. Seems like there's a lot of similarities. You both have these really impassioned and important social and political and cultural messages and issues that you want to share, and you want other people to empathize with your subjects. And it seems like you just want people to care and to understand each other. And I think, as you said, Faria, art is the perfect way to do that, because you can sit there and listen to a speech or a presentation, and maybe it will move you or make you think a different way. But then you get up and you leave and you go and have lunch or something, whereas if you have that visual, that art that sears itself kind of into your brain, and it might just stay with you, and you get to come back, right? You can come back to the gallery again and again, or go back to a website or a book and look at those images again and again. And I think you're doing that very well. I know from this exhibit here at the Silk Purse, we've had some great feedback so far from visitors. The show has been up since September 20th, so it's been up for a little bit. And people are really staying and engaging and asking questions of themselves and of the volunteers and and the staff, and just really having a great time engaging with the artwork. It's been really great to see, and I can't wait to see more and hear more about what people have to say about your work.
Well,
On
that's
that
great.
note,
That's great. Yeah, that's great. I think that's what we want. And I, as myself, I really enjoy that when people pay attention to my work, and then I feel that okay, they got the message. So, and that's why I try to do more. And currently, I'm collaborating internationally with different group, different artists around the world to share this message. So I do with visual arts, with the other artists, with a musician, with a writer. So we carry that message when we need to publish with people. And I'm happy about that if people pay attention and deeply thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm glad that people are resonating with it, and it's striking up conversation, and like kind of inspiring people to look deep into these issues, which is what we want, right? This is what we want our works to do when we are not there, to advocate, right? So the art does it for us. So I'm glad to hear that it's doing well. Yeah.
and if you're watching this live or in the next couple days or weeks after this stream is done, you can come see the exhibit. It will be here at the Silk Purse until October the 15th. So please come on in and check it out. Our fantastic artists have each chosen a work of art that's on display that they're going to talk about that sort of represents some of what they're trying to say with this body of work. So let's move on to that, and we have this a beautiful painting here by Faria. I'm just gonna pull that up. Excellent. Faria, could you please talk to us about this stunning work?
Yeah, sure. So this work is titled Adore. And I thought the reason I chose this because I think it's quite cherished and loved painting by me, because this painting was the start of the series of work that are present in the gallery. It was kind of like a segue that started all these passionate projects and these passionate paintings. All the paintings there kind of were inspired from and by this. So yeah, so Adorned kind of represents the transitional phase. So yes, so this is, I think, the space in the gallery, the Silk Purse Gallery. Sorry, I just took over. So yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Let me just
yeah, so this is Adorned. So this painting kind of represents the transitional phase, which is basically where you're neither here nor there, like the liminal space. So when a bride, a South Asian bride, is married, and then she goes off in this palanquin, which takes her from her father's place to her husband's place. And there's always this sense of the woman belonging to either of the houses. But I think in the palanquin, she is a person of her own. She has transitioned from her father's house and is transitioning to her husband's house. But in this liminal space, she is her own self. She is her own identity, and she is her own person. She does not have any label of this so-and-so's daughter, so-and-so's wife. She is in the midpoint of that. And I find that a very celebratory state where you're just you and you're not being represented by someone else. So when I started this work and I was exploring this midpoint in life, this liminal space, and how this liminal space is what all migrants and immigrants are going through once they have come to any countries, especially I look at Canada. So this painting was done after I moved here, and I was thinking about all these things that were happening, these adjustments, these cultural barriers, these language barriers that's happening, and I felt myself in that transitional state as well. So I started exploring more and more on this topic of how migration is affecting these newcomers and what's happening. So I think this painting became a segue then into the study of migration and its effects. And with that, I kind of was looking at like all the issues and like things that I was more passionate about. And things that came up is these practices or these rules, regulations that we think are present in South Asian countries when we migrate, these migrants as well. And so now when you don't have a social support, when you don't have any one by your side, you're in this new land, in this new space. How do you navigate that? How does all of these things that are happening to you affect your own self? So I'll give a trigger warning, but because the next phase I'm going to talk about does involve a bit of abuse, domestic abuse. So aware of that. So yes, so when I was like looking into these things and like how transition and migration kind of leads to these new world, but then you're faced with this completely unfamiliar environment where you have no knowledge of the resources you're getting, and you're coming into this country. And when I talk when I'm saying all of these things, I'm talking from the perspective of a woman, and all my works kind of are about women and their struggles. So when I say lack of social support, when I say lack of accessibility, I'm talking about women, especially for now. So these social support that they don't, that the women don't have access to, they're in this new country that they have come, most of the time they have come with their husbands, with their families and things like that. And there's a lot of these pressures of these like certain kind of tasks and rules that you have to abide by and abide to. So I think those rules kind of then are used as a way of intimidating and constraining and restricting you. So when you're here, you don't know the language, you are not aware of all the facilities and services that are there for you. Then what do? You're all alone and you're going through these domestic abuse, and you can't get out of it because you don't know how to. You don't know what resources are there in place for you. So I think with these body of work, I was really heartened, like very saddened by knowing that these, like in a country like Canada, you're still having to see these sort of problems. Like people come here, okay, for hoping for a better life, but no, you're not getting a better life if you're constrained and restricted. So that's what I was looking at. And then I wanted my paintings to do these jobs of being the middleman, of letting other people know that these issues exist, as well as letting the victims know that it's it's a common experience and it's not okay. You look at these works, most of the time, these works are visually kind of uncomfortable to look at. And then it kind of gives you that sense of trying to understand the victim's point from an audience perspective, and the victims, when they look at the work, they resonate with it. And usually in my artist statement, I talk about the injustice and things like that. And usually it kind of resonates with them and they do feel okay. There are services that we are able to access if we need to, right? So I think the art is there to do that. That's one section. The other section, I think, is usually the works I'm doing are all kind of repetitive mark making, which for me is a sort of meditation. Most of my paintings have a intricate pattern on the back, or like patterns on dresses, and these patterns I do as sort of meditation, and that's my way of adjusting or contemplating my changes since migration. I have been privileged enough to be able to voice these issues and be vocal about it. So why not use it, right? So why not use that place of privilege to do something about these things that might be happening? So yeah, painting these also gives me the sort of meditation, the sort of self-contemplation. And I usually, when I paint throughout the nights, and it's those times when I'm like thinking about these these harsh realities, but at the same time when I'm painting, it's still a meditative process. So I think it balances it out. Even though it's hard to look at, it's a dense topic, I'm still using these repetitive forms to help me go through it, right? The other thing, my painting, the people that model in these paintings are, sometimes I reference myself in those poses and then paint them, just talking a bit on the process of it. So, and usually when I do find people who have gone through these experiences, and I do find these people through like workshops, gatherings, social gatherings, we chat, we talk about things that could be better, the things that they're facing after coming to Canada, the things there is in place for them. So I do from time to time try to run workshops for people, for women to gather a place of storytelling, place of story sharing, and a place of sense of belonging where we all belong and we all relate to each other. So in those settings, I take stories and references, and then I make painting out of them. So the other series, other paintings in this series are essentially those. Those are snapshots of abuse, of snapshots of some scenarios or some instances. And then usually I ask them if they want to be photographed, and what pose they would want to be photographed and then painted as. Sometimes people are very confident and they're okay with like coming onto the in front of the camera for me to use them as a reference to do the painting. Sometimes they're not, but they do let me know what pose they would want their painting to be. And I use that pose, I use myself as a reference, and then I paint. And I paint the patterns on the background, intricate patterns, and then I draw these women on top of these patterns. And I draw over these patterns, sort of like breaking these beautiful, intricate imagery on the back with these striking poses. So, and I do hope these works do instigate some kind of change. They start conversations, and I'm glad that it is. Hearing from you, Stephen, I'm glad that it is letting people like ask these questions or piquing their interest. So I'm glad that it is doing it. So I'm grateful. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's so much going on. And it sounds, I think this is something that when we get to Harem, some of your work, it's very community minded, right? Like you're talking about leading workshops in storytelling, and that's how you get to meet people and help other women who might be going through some of these difficult issues and times in their life find that release, and then you get to express that in your artwork and help share those stories. I think that's why have you gone that route, do you think? Why is sharing these stories, why through art, why is that your drive? Why not do it in some other way? And why is this your artwork? Why aren't you just painting beautiful flowers or trees?
I think I paint from a place of passion. I paint things I think needs to be talked about. I could paint beautiful pictures like landscapes and things like that, but to me, I want my story. I want to be an advocate for these women, and my paintings, I want them to be one as well. When I'm not there, when I'm not able to like have these conversation going, I feel like these paintings are there to talk about it. And why I am passionate about it, I can't give you a definite answer for it. I just feel strongly about these issues, and it's something that just comes to me as intuition and inherently, and something I just let my intuition go and let my passion do the job.
That's great. And I love that you specifically chose Adorned to talk about, because it is a little bit different from the rest of the body of work, because as you were saying, in the other paintings, there's these really intricate pattern work happening. And then in Adorned, you've got those beautiful patterns replicated on the dress. But saying, because this is, as you said, a transitional piece, because as you're mentioning, when people come to a new country, that's their chance to figure out maybe who they are, who they want to be, who they were, what is possible for them, what can they escape, what can they reach for, what are they leaving behind. So I really appreciate you having that piece in this exhibit, because I think that's a great jumping on point for everyone else while they're experiencing this body of work. And that transitional kind of moment that you're talking about, I think translates really nicely into Harem's work, because again, it's about change and moving and migration. So I'm going to pull up your piece, and then if you would please tell us, Harem, about this fantastic artwork.
First of all, thank you so much, Faria. It was really beautiful, and now I feel more close to the art that you do. It's kind of like similar, and I got some of the background that you talked about. It was so beautiful, and thanks for sharing and explaining in detail. if I answer your question first, Stephen, that you said why she's not doing, for example, the other work or like flowers, yeah, and so I think it is. If I go back to my work, I think it would be maybe same for Faria as well. It is not like because sometimes people think like that if I do sad stories about victims and the other stories that people might not like it as a painting and hang it on the wall, but it is not like it does not mean that for example I am not happy and because lots of people asking me this question that for example they are saying that, oh, you live in Canada and you have a better life, it's not like back home, why are you still doing those kind of painting? No, I have lots of beautiful painting. When I say beautiful, I mean like landscape, flower, or some colorful painting. It's lots of time that I'm doing something just for fun, and it is not like I'm not happy that I'm showing this or making these kind of painting. But if I go back to the first time that I came to Canada, uh, actually that was a question for myself. So what should I do? Should I change my style or to go somewhere else and work on a different subject? Otherwise, I might not doing anything, or maybe people don't pay attention of what I'm doing because life here is different. Lots of artists are making like beautiful painting, flower, abstract, colorful painting. Why I should continue on the way that I am? And but then I decided to no, I didn't give up, and I said that no, I have, as I said, I have a message to share, and that should be through my art because you know that art is a universal language, and it is you get people's attention once you tell your story through your art, and it is much different if you telling the story and making art about your story, and that's why I chose this way, and I'm so glad that it works for me. Lots of people liked the work that I do, and it was because also the other way. If you think about the other way, there are millions of artists that they do landscape, flower, and something that all does. But if mine was kind of like even when I arrived and was living here newly and start new life, uh, and nobody knew me as an artist, but I could get my spot because of my art and the story of my art, and uh, I had solo shows here, having good connection with the other project, the other artists internationally. I think all of those because of the story of my art, and I'm really glad that people appreciate that. Uh, if I talk a little bit about this work, uh, it's as the name of the painting is looking back, and actually it was the name of my solo show last year. I had a solo show last year named Looking Back. So I decided to name this because even I'm living in a country which I'm happy and I'm glad that I'm here, but still I'm kind of like I'm in a back, I'm in a past, and I always looking back uh, to my childhood, to my family, to my life that I had, and it was sad. It was not happy story, and sometimes that's why you kind of like I mix in two lives, and it is something that you cannot ignore. And sometimes even I'm happy, suddenly it's kind of like a flashback coming, and I'm going back to my childhood, and again, so living in the middle of war and growing up in a refugee camp, losing my childhood, those are some things that I carry, and it's not something like I can forget easily. And even I have a perfect life, and this is the message that I want to share with people, because it could happen to anyone. It is not like you are safe. We don't know, because lots of war going on in the Middle East, and but suddenly it happened in Ukraine as well, and nobody expect that, right? So it could happen to anybody in the world. That's why it's better, I think, appreciate the life that we have, and have peace. So that's why in the picture, in the painting, I mixed myself with the background, with a memory that I have. And again, there's a kid in the painting, which could be referred to myself or any other kids that they were in the same situation. I remember my mom told me that a day that we had been bombarded by chemical weapons, and we tried to flee to another country. And that day, when I heard the bombs, I was just screaming, and it was a really loud sound. And it is still, believe me, still it is with me. And sometimes when I hear loud sound, suddenly I kind of like shock me or scare me. So also about the children, that as I said, it's not only about me, because I have been working with children's for a few years in Kurdistan. We had lots of refugees coming from Syria, from the other part of Iraq, coming to our area because it was safer for them. I had an art class in the camps, and I visit those kids teaching art. It was fun, but those kids that I saw every day remind myself that the day that I was living in the camp. And so it is something that it is about everyone. It is about every kids, and and yeah, sometime I'm closing my eyes and again thinking about the days that I was living in, and the memories that I had. And yeah, this is about the looking back painting, and it is about a kid their who lost the toys because of war and couldn't have a normal life. And imagine that how many kids are in the same situation. Recently, I was collaborating with another project in Italy that I think about 500 to 700 artists are participating in that project. It is the name of the project is the stories from the camp. So there are artists that are participating in the project that they are still living in the refugee camp. So it is really shocking that And yeah, I think that's about the painting briefly.
Thank you so much for sharing more of your story with us, Harem, and discussing again very big and important topic. And mentioning again community, right? You're working with kids in camps, just like Faria. You're working with women in these workshops. It's very inspiring, and I think that's a fantastic thing to not only you're doing the work in many ways, right? You're creating the artwork, you're working with these other people in situations where you might be able to help. I think that's just as human beings, that I'm blown away. I think that's pretty amazing. And your artwork, RM, as we saw in that piece, and Faria as well, there's elements of kind of very expressionist and symbolic and slightly surreal elements going on, right? It's not just here is a straightforward depiction of this person and maybe what they're going through. There's other elements happening. Why work that way? Why not just do a full-on, straight-on portrait? I'll leave that up to both of you actually, because I think it applies to both of your work.
Well, I think if I talk about this, it is, as I said, it is not only my story. That's why I am not focusing on only one element or one subject. It is what affects me daily, what is going on around me, or even what I feel, what I see, what I hear could affect me and make a piece about it. And it is not necessary that it should be about me or happen to me to make a piece. So it's recently that the PC fire that we had, it was really hurting me. So that could be a piece of art for me to work on it. And actually I have a plan to have a solo show about this, about the global warming, because this is another thing that affects all human beings. And yeah, that's why I'm not staying only on one subject. It's not only about war. It's about every victims, every human beings that they are struggling with something. Violence, could be war, even their countries. So that way, if you look at my pieces, it's kind of like mixing, and it's not only about one person or only about war. And I would like to do that actually. Yeah, that way I have a little bit different of the painting that I have. For example, I could make a painting about anything that I see today, right? But what I do, it's really affecting me. That's why I try to do that. And yeah, that's my point on it.
And I agree with him. Like it is so many things that's happening, and it's more of like an outer perspective than like an linear tunnel vision sort of thing. There are so many things that's like a domino effect. It's like this happened, and these are the results, as well as like these are the issues that's making this happen. So I think it's very elaborate in a sense. So it's best represented by symbolism. That way you're getting the whole picture of it rather than having very direct visual element of it. So I think that works for both of us, like having these different symbolism and elements that's in one piece that tells the vast story, the outer like zoomed out version, then just that one aspect of it. So yeah.
And I think it's also that's a way that artists can support if anything happening, and how we stand for, and not just ignore it. It could be through our painting, our work. Yeah.
That makes 100% perfect sense. You know, a lot of time we hear other people's stories are not fathomable to us, right? Like we don't have that in. And when you hear that a lot about artwork as well, is I don't have an in to artwork, but I think what you two are doing by taking sort of the larger aspect and using, you know, like a single figure, but with your extra imagery and your patterns and your surreal elements and your symbols, you do give people that into not only the artwork, but the messages behind the artwork. I think that's a very skilled a tool to have. And we've finally got the video ready, I hope. So let's have a quick look, and you can see some of what our fantastic artists have been talking about in this show. Amazing, yeah. So this is what you see when you come in from our waterfront view. That was just a quick overview of the whole exhibit. And then I thought we started off with Faria's work. So we just saw Adorned, as you just talked about, and then we move on to the rest of the work that you've done here. You can see all that fantastic pattern work that you were talking about earlier. And the very dramatic pieces, dramatic poses, the symbolism, these women that you're painting, they're all so very singular and engaging. This piece is a piece that I know a lot of people are talking about because it's the only one of your pieces where your subject is looking directly at you, and so everyone is really they're really stung by it. You know, it's a piece that forces you to engage with it.
Yeah, because I think with her, she is the representation of the strength in that confrontational gaze that I'm giving and
Yeah.
she's giving. So
yes, and then we've moved across the room to Harem to see your work. And again, very dramatic poses, and most of the time, again, a figure or a singular object to draw us in.
Yeah, my last exhibition, latest work, I used lots of most of the painting were about the shoes, which shoes and feet, which could be. It was an idea that when I was working with those kids and they were telling their story, I decided to make a project about them and took a picture of their portrait. Each of the portrait, but then they were talking about their life and explaining their story. All of the story were about their feet, and that way I decided to transfer it to feet. And even I told myself, why not let their feet express their story or their what they feel and what their struggle was. And yeah, it's actually, it could be a different element, or it could be a shoe, it could be a feet. It's not the all the emotion or everything is not only here, right? And that way you see different items even in my paintings, like a wheelchair, a soccer ball could represent a story. Yeah.
Very powerful images, I will say, Harem. They're very striking. And thank you for being so vulnerable and letting us into such personal experiences. So
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much.
I think there is that vulnerability in sharing your story, and in Faria in sharing these stories that you've seen and experienced, or that other people have experienced, really forces the art viewer to open themselves up as well, and to confront things. If they can't directly relate to the experience, maybe it triggers a little something else. I think this is a show about vulnerability and strength, but it's also for the viewer to become vulnerable, to become receptive, to soak it all in and process, and hopefully come away with something. Because it's a very I find it to be a very hopeful show. I think both of your artwork, bodies of work, while dealing with these very serious subjects, there's I don't personally anyway find them to be so dark. There's a little bit of light coming through, right? Like you can see where the fight is being given, where that perseverance, that pursuit of the better end is in all of that work. So I really appreciate that, and I thank you for that, for giving viewers something heavy to think about, but realizing that there is a place to go. There is a way that you can find your voice, that you can put down your roots, you can lay the foundations of yourself. It's as we got back to your first piece, Faria, it's all about transition, all about yourself and finding out who you are in terms of maybe your experiences, but maybe how you can help, right? Because both of you, your work and as people, you're helping others, not only through the artwork that you make, but through the other ways you're involved with the community. So I think that's something that people can take away as well, is what can I do, or what's my role?
Yeah, that's why I can see that in Faria's work, and I really like it. Yeah, this is we need to have that, and especially for about the woman, because it is they need to fight for it, and I see that Faria is doing that, and also we support them as well. I have lots of pieces to support women as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, there's especially because of your artwork is speaking about migration and migrants and refugees and immigrants. There is those are communities within the larger scope of Canada that maybe sometimes need that fight, that extra support, that little push to get the wider population to pay attention to these stories. And art is a fantastic way to do that. It can be confrontational, but it can also be that hand that holds you and takes you into the subject. And I'm just gonna quickly check on. Yes, so I think we're just about coming to the close of this conversation. It's been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate, and I'm sure everyone watching appreciates how open you've been with the inspirations of your work, with your own stories, with the stories that you're telling, and with your artistic process and talking about how you make things. It's been really fantastic to hear that. So thank you both so much for sharing.
And thank you to you as well for giving us the opportunity to come and talk about things we're passionate about, so talk about like our works in general. So thank you to you, Silver's Gallery as well, Art Center as well, for having this platform for us to have these kind of special talks and these serious talks, right? So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for both of you. And it was a really great opportunity to speak about it, and looking forward to go there in person. And then I'm thinking that people have more questions, and I like the question actually about my art, because that's the time that more answering, or sometimes because you forgot, but by the question then you can tell the story and perfectly and go into the detail. Yeah, thank you so much.
And speaking of being in person and answering and asking questions, if you're watching this before October 14th, you can come on down to the gallery. We're going to have a Meet the Artist event, and both of these talented creators will be here. So please come on down to the Silk Purse on October the 14th from 2 to 3:30. All that info will be on our website, which there's a link to in the description of this video. In the description, there's also links to the sites and social media of these two fantastic artists. So you can follow them and see what they're up to and look at other bodies of work that they've done. So please stay connected with the fantastic artists here in testimony, Faria Firoz and Harem Tahir. And thank you again both for sharing your fantastic, beautiful, and impactful artwork with us.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this conversation. Hope you get down to see the exhibit. And we will see you soon for another artist talk. Take care.
Yeah.